and turn on the recording. I'm going to invite all of you to mute yourselves, and I'm going to admit everyone from the waiting room. Rebecca can't join us because she is she's not here. She's on vacation. And let me just yeah. Good evening, everyone. We will begin shortly. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Veronica Aplenc. I'm the chair of the co-chair of the Center City Residents Association. I'm going to mute everyone so that we're going to have a nice, crisp meeting. I'd like to inform all of you that this meeting is being recorded. So now let's go ahead and get started. To begin, the Center City Residents Association, and first, again, let me welcome you to the Center City Residents Association Zoning Committee. The CCRA is a 75-plus-year-old nonprofit civic association. As a nonprofit, we encourage everyone to become a member, which can easily be done through our website. There are several benefits to being a member, one of which is being notified of all proposed zoning changes within our area. The CCRA is the recognized registered community organization, RCO, for our area. Our boundaries are from South Street, excuse me, to JFK Boulevard and Broad Street to the Schuylkill River. Our committee works as follows. First, applicants are to present. We ask applicants address the specific refusals or referrals. We ask for no interruptions as applicants give their full presentation. After the presentation, the zoning committee will have a chance to ask questions. After the zoning committee's questions are completed, we open the meeting to the community. When addressed, we ask that you state your name and address. We ask that you keep your questions succinct and to the variance being discussed. We also ask that people not repeat other people's questions. If you agree with someone's position, you're welcome to simply state that you agree. If there's a spokesperson for the neighbors, we ask that this person speak for the group first. After we hear from all applicants and listen to the community comments, our committee meets in closed session. We vote in one of three ways: oppose, not oppose, or not oppose with provisos. CCRA never votes in favor of any application. Our decision is emailed to the council person, the ZBA, and the applicant, and it's posted on the CCRA website. Importantly, no matter how we decide, if you are concerned with a project, we strongly recommend that you attend the ZBA hearing. This is the best way to make your concerns known. The CCRA Zoning Committee cannot express the neighbor's point of view. Only a property owner or aggrieved individual may express their personal concerns to the ZBA. With that said, we have three applicants for tonight's meeting, and we'll begin with the first as published on the agenda, and that is 2120 Pine Street. And to confirm, this is an application for a fourth floor addition to an existing single-family attached structure. And this is a refusal. And the reason is maximum allowed building height is 38 feet, whereas proposed building height is 48 feet 2 inches, and so is refused. So I invite 2120 Pine Street, I invite their representatives to unmute themselves, and yours will be the first case that we will hear.
Hi, we're Elena Laskin and Joe Wilcoxon. We're the owners of 2120 Pine Street. Our presentation will largely be made by Jackie, who's our architect, but we just wanted to thank the CCRA Zoning Committee for its time. And for just brief background, we bought this house in 2016 and quickly learned that our roof deck was sinking, which was the impetus for this project. We tried some repairs that it didn't really help the situation. So that is why we started this project. And I'm gonna pass it over to Jackie to go through the details, but we just wanted to introduce ourselves and thank you in advance.
Thank you.
And good evening, my name is Jackie Gusick. My firm is Inhabit Incorporated, and I'm the architect for the project. And I'll just go ahead and share my screen. Okay. As Elena said, thank you very much for hearing our case tonight. I'll just walk through our presentation quickly and then be ready to answer your questions. So as Elena described, the project was really started because they were having some structural issues. And in talking about the space, Elena and Joe really felt like a room on the 4th floor would be beneficial to them because they're largely landlocked and surrounded by four-story structures. So being able to have a space that's up sort of within the light and the air that's available on that street would be really beneficial to them in how they use the house. They also currently have a roof deck, enjoy using it, and so are continuing that as part of the space of the 4th floor. For reference, this is the property, the one with the red arrow pointing towards it. On 21st Street, I'm sorry, on Pine Street, you see it is a 3-story structure in the front. Their neighbors are both 2-story. And you cannot currently see, there is a roof deck there right now and a railing when these photos were taken. They are not visible from the street. And far right photo here, you see the arrow pointing to an existing trellis, which is part of an existing roof deck. So that is visible from Van Pelt Street. This is our notice of refusal, which was read. This is an overlay of what is existing and proposed. So the light gray box, sort of bottom middle of the drawing, is the existing pilot house. Everything else with a hatch that is vertical is with the existing deck. So you'll see we're not proposing to go any further forward with our deck, and the addition is covering where the trellis currently is and the roof deck currently exists. This is it in section. Again, the gray box is the existing pilot house, and then that is the outline of our proposed addition. Going to the current rear 3rd floor building line, we're proposing to extend that line up where the trellis currently exists from the photo. Here's an outline of what we're hoping to use the space for. As you see, we're just creating a living space for the 4th floor, somewhere where they can really, as I said, get up, get some natural sunlight. Both properties on the east and the west extend all the way back to their property line in the rear. Multiple stories, not just one floor. It's 3-4 stories there at the rear for the neighbors. So in Elena and Joe's backyard, 1st floor, 2nd floor, or the rear of the house is still pretty dark because of their existing conditions. The Van Pelt property also, I believe it's 403, extends back and covers their rear yard. Multiple stories again. They're really sort of cavernous. And we have our proposed elevations. We have already gone in front of the Historic Commission, really just due to timing because the zoning process is so long. Historic was able to see us quickly. So this has been vetted and approved through the Historic Commission. And, we're creating some design moves like sloping the roof in an effort to minimize our massing overall for the neighbors. In particular, the one to the east. This is an outline. The gray box here is the east neighbor, 2118 Pine Street. We're showing how our proposed structure is sized in relation to their current property. So you'll see they have a roof deck that extends all the way back. So we'll really be minimizing our visibility from Van Pelt Street. And we think not adversely affecting our neighbors who are, sized similarly to what we were proposing. A copy of the historic letter was included in our presentation packet. And then I also included our application for appeal. And then I also included our notice of notification and our certification of mailing. And I guess we're open for questions now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that concise and clear presentation. What I'm going to do now is, as is our practice, I will call on members of the committee first. After that, I will open the floor up to community members and local near neighbors who wish to ask questions.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I forgot to mention, we do have 2 letters of neighbor support, and I have them here. I can send them to you after this meeting. There are 2 neighbors directly across the street who are in support of the project.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption.
No problem. So let's begin with our committee questions. Charles Robin, do you have any questions?
One question was answered about the letter of support, but my second question is, if I was standing on Pine Street on the opposite side, would I be able to see the addition?
No, and thank you for asking that question. The screen, the drawing that's visible here on the bottom left is showing our section, and you see the sort of silhouette of the man across the street, and the angle where the cornice line cuts your view, we're beneath sort of the angle of view with our proposed addition.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. Flora Becker, any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
You're muted, Ben.
I will unmute myself to say I have no questions.
All right, thank you. Rick Pasquier, any questions?
Yes, you anticipated the question on letters of support, but did you receive any letters that opposed the plan?
We have not. I'm hoping the neighbor at 2018 is here. I didn't even receive any reach out from neighbors after they received our notification letter asking for drawings, except for actually 403 Van Pelt 2 days ago, I think, emailed just to ask for a copy of the drawings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Doug Miller, any questions?
Just that I never got a letter. I'm a block away. I didn't get a letter. I don't know anything about this until today.
Okay.
Can I respond to that?
Please do.
I will say, I also include my address in the mailer, and I did receive mine. Like I said, 403 Van Pelt got one. I did hear of a building that must be rentals that had it posted on their door. Someone called me to say, I think this is a mistake. It got posted on my door, and we realized that the tenants put it up. It was the realtor company that called me about it.
I still don't understand that letters aren't getting out to the neighbors. So I don't know why that is. And then people don't know what's going on. So how are they going to support or otherwise be part of this?
If I can just, I did receive on our block, several people proactively talked to me about, after having received the letter, talked to me about the project. I also affirmatively sent an email with a copy of the letter to the immediate neighbors, just to make sure, we want to do this right. We wanted to make sure that everybody is aware. In addition to the letter, we attached the letter to an email and sent it. We have an email group. So I am aware through both of those things that the neighbors on our block did receive this letter and have the test. So I wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to participate and comment.
Okay. Well, thank you for that conversation. It sounds like we're ready to move on to another top point, unless there's more to be said on that topic. I'm not sure how we can move that forward.
Well, I see Sylvie has her hand up, and I also have a question.
Right, and thank you for that, Bob. And what I'm doing is I'm going through the committee in an order, and
I'm
you
sorry.
two are on the list, and I haven't forgotten about
Oh,
you.
I thought you were moving on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. So, I we've noted this particular question about the one particular address, and unless there are more points to say about that, I think that we can move on. So I'm moving through a list of the committee members, and it's really in no particular order. And now Sylvie Lorente, you're next, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Going back to the neighbors discussion, you showed 2 letters of support from across the street. I was wondering if you have support from the neighbors on the right and on the left of the house, because those are one of the most impacted by the potential change.
Yes, thank you. So the neighbor to the east, I believe, has dialed in, Lene Schwartz, if you wanted to hear from her now.
No, thank you. What we're going to do is we'll hear from her at the end, but we do wish to hear from her.
And the neighbor to the west is an apartment building. It's owned by a very large company, and I've always found difficulty to connect with them. So I haven't heard from them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Karen Moskowitz, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Bob Lane, any questions?
No further. My questions were about the neighbors, which have been addressed so far. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Ben Weinraub, you're a committee member, and I saw you were able to join us with a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
I'll add you
My
now.
apologies, no questions.
All right, wonderful. Now, have I unintentionally overlooked any committee member? If I have, please unmute yourself and let me know. All right, seeing none, I'd like to now move to community members. So what I would like to ask is, if you are a community member and you have an interest or have a point that you would like to make regarding zoning on 2120 Pine Street, I ask that you raise your hand using the raise hand function. And you can find that function under reactions at the bottom of your screen, either on your computer or your cell phone. So if you could please raise your hands, what I will do is I will call on you in the order that I see your hands raised. And when I call on you, just again, please state your name and address for the committee. So Lynn Schwartz, and apologies for any mispronunciations, I see you've raised your hand. Please feel free to unmute and share your thoughts.
Okay, now unmuted. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Elena and Joe are wonderful neighbors. They have communicated extensively with me and with Leslie Serchuk, the other owner of the property at 2118 Pine. We are totally in support of this project. It's lovely. It will help them really take advantage of space. And we have absolutely no objections. They've involved us in all the planning steps, and it will be a lovely project. Certainly will have no negative and only positive impact on our basically community and livability here on Pine Street.
Thank you. And I take it you're the neighbor to the east, is that right?
That is correct.
Thank you. Are there other individuals who are on the call who would like to make a comment on 2120 Pine Street? So I don't see any raised hands. So if there's anyone on the call who would like to comment on 2121 Pine Street, I invite you to unmute yourself at this time and share your comment. All right, hearing no one, we will close our discussion on 2120 Pine Street. I want to thank Elena Laskin and Joe Wilcoxon, and also Jackie Gusick for their clear presentation. Thank you very much. And we appreciate your being concise and clear. Now what we'll do is we're going to move to our second property, and that is 2402 Spruce Street. This property is also a refusal, and this is an application for a visitor accommodations in an existing building. And the reason for the refusal is that the proposed visitor accommodations is prohibited in this zoning district. So I invite the the representatives from 2402 Spruce Street to unmute themselves and to share their presentation.
Yes, good evening, Veronica. My name and the rest of the board. My name is Alan Occamson of Occamson PC. And with me is the owner's representatives, Ricky Lee and Hannah Yu. The owners of 2402 Spruce LLC. And along with them is the representative from YD Fortune LLC, the property management company. May I share my screen?
Please do.
Hi. So a little housekeeping. Our ZBA hearing is next week, August 30th at 3:30 p.m. Under calendar number MI-2022-006734. And yes, we're here to obtain approval from the community as well as the ZBA for visitor accommodations for this 6-unit building. So during our presentation, we'll first review the notice of refusal, then we'll review the license, the rental license allowing us to have 6 units here, which we hope to convert from long-term accommodations to short-term accommodations. We did circulate a petition around the neighborhood. We have, I believe, 16 signatures. That is a mix between the 2100, the 2200, 2300, and 2400 blocks of Spruce Street, as well as the 200 and 300 blocks of South 24th Street. Then we have reviews for this property as an Airbnb. As you know, up until recently, the city has allowed for this use, but now we're legalizing that use by way of this variance process. But you can see that the reviews are very good. We're a responsible operator of an Airbnb, and we see ourselves more as a boutique hotel than anything with these 6 units. And then it's not uncommon to have visitor accommodations nearby. And we took a map of the area and compared it to what's the listings that are on Airbnb, and you'll see that as well. Then maps of the area. This is an RM1 property, so we're not trying to increase density in any way. It allows for 6 units. Again, we're not trying to really change the use in most respects. I mean, instead of having long-term accommodations of 30 days or more, our model is more for short-term accommodations. And then we have photographs of the property, and you'll see that they handle and take care of this property very well and responsibly. So we have photographs of the exterior of the property as well as the interior of the property in the surrounding neighborhood. Our plans and drawings as well, just to show you a simple floor plan. Basically, there's 2 units per floor. In the front, there's a studio. In the back, there is the 1 bedrooms. Then our meeting notice, we're required to mail notice of this community meeting to addresses essentially within a 250 square block, 250 square foot radius. We're given those addresses, so we don't have an opportunity to deviate from that. And you'll see the notice that went out as well as a proof of mailing of that notice. Then the deed to the property showing that 2402 Spruce LLC is the owner of the property, and then our application for appeal. Our notice of refusal, again, we're not trying to increase the density in any way. This is a 6-unit building, RM1. We're trying to make it into a 6-unit visitor accommodation. So it's really form over substance in our minds. It's actually less use. From experience with our other clients as well as this client, many people have less use for transportation when they're visiting a city. So many of our clients are flying in, want to be close to center city, and they look at hotels like this, like more of a boutique. We have a couple examples. The most pertinent to this organization is the Dwight D Hotel, which is a 7-unit boutique hotel at 256 South 16th Street. Again, this is not a mom and pop organization. This is professionally run. Again, just to show that, we're not trying to increase the density in any way. We showed the rental license for 6 units. And then petition, we tried to circulate the petition to the surrounding area. As you can see, we have signatures from different parts of Spruce Street, as well as the 200 block and 300 block of South 24th Street. Really try to hone in and focus on the people that are most directly impacted. Just so you understand, on the 2400 Spruce Street, I believe is a 6-unit apartment building. And then our reviews, again, we have, very good reviews. We take it very important that we have, that we treat our occupants and tenants well. But on the flip side, it's very important to us to also make sure that our tenants and occupants treat the neighborhood well. So just like we get reviews on Airbnb, I don't know if many people know this, but Airbnb actually gives an opportunity for the landlords to give reviews of their occupants. So our client screens our occupants very well, and one of the mechanisms they use is to actually, look at those reviews, and we don't take bad tenants, because it makes no sense. It's disruptive to the neighborhood, but it's also disruptive to our short-term accommodations as well. Another safeguard we have in place is that we have noise meters in the units. So if the noise reaches a certain amount, like, the tenants are notified to reduce that. And then obviously we're in charge of making sure that garbage is properly removed from the premises at the conclusion of the tenant's occupancy. And we take that actually off-site. My client, YD Fortune LLC, that manages these properties, manages approximately 60 to 70 short-term accommodation units in the city. So this is professional operation where they have a staff on site, where they remove trash from the different units throughout the city and disposes it from a centralized location. So here are just more reviews for these units on this particular site. And then again, we took a look at different visitor accommodation sites on Airbnb. Now, I don't remember when exactly this was taken. The city has focused on shutting down these Airbnbs over the last couple of weeks. It's a long process. Like, we've tried to legalize this, and we've done our best to get through this process as quickly as possible, but it's usually a 6-month process. So anyone who hasn't started it now is not actively listed on Airbnb. But again, there is a need in this neighborhood, for people who don't have the accommodations to have relatives and friends who could stay in their place. We see it as an opportunity for them to use our place on a short-term basis, as well as people who are visiting, just for pleasure or also for business. And then maps of the area, as you can see, the zoning of this property or this portion of the neighborhood is predominantly RM1. Not to say that everyone's using it for multifamily use, but it has its own classification of RM1. Currently, we have a legal use of 6 units. Again, next door to us, the 2400 Spruce Street is 6 units as well. I looked across the street. Don't know if that's being rented out, but they do have rental licenses for those properties as well. And then just to give you an idea from a Google Maps perspective where we are in the neighborhood. And then photographs of the property. Again, it's a 3-story structure. Then Spruce Street to the right of the property, Spruce Street to the left of the property, and the interior photos. Again, my client has tastefully furnished and renovated this property over the years, and they're hoping to continue to use it for short-term accommodations. And these are just examples of some of the units. We didn't want to take every single unit. We do have pictures for every unit. And every unit does have a kitchen as well as a stove and a refrigerator in the kitchen area. And then there are plans and drawings. This is the first floor plan. You just walk through a vestibule area. You have a common hallway. This is unit number 1, which is a 1-bedroom. And I did say that the units go from, I think I said in the original part of the presentation, that the 1-bedrooms are in the rear, they're actually in the front. Well, the more studio units are in the rear. But then you go up a common staircase in the middle, and then on the 2nd and 3rd floors, it's the same floor plan where you have here a studio and a 1-bedroom. And the same thing, you have a studio and a 1-bedroom. And then we sent out notice of tonight's meeting on August 8th, 2 weeks beforehand. 150 addresses were notified of the meeting. They'll list the addresses, proof of mailing to those addresses, our deed to property showing that 2402 Spruce Street is the owner of the property, and then just our application for appeal that we filed with the ZBA. With that being said, I would ask that Hannah, you just introduce yourself to community, and then we'll be more than happy to take any questions from the community.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hannah. I'm the property manager of from Whitey Fortune, and I'm in charge of all the listings we currently manage. And we actively working on this property on 2402 Spruce since 2018. We maintain the building really well, and we have good relationship with all of our customers. We also serve a lot of guests for business travel purposes, medical treatment, also like visiting scholars. So this is being a really convenient location in the city. And also compared to the price of the hotel, we have maintained the occupancy rate over 80% throughout the year. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this property and regarding our management.
All righty. Well, thank you both very much. That is thank you for that comprehensive presentation. I'd like to go now to our committee members and ask the committee members questions. So again, Charles Robin, any questions?
Questions, thank you.
Flora Becker, any questions?
No questions.
Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
Yeah, I do. As I understand it, you currently have 6 long-term rental units in the property. Is that right?
Yes.
And by long-term, are you meaning 30 days or longer?
Yes, 30 days or longer. We got 2 active tenants right now for about 1 month. They're students from one from UPenn, one from Drexel. They're still looking for apartments around, so they temporarily stay here, and a couple other units are currently vacant.
Are the other 4 units empty?
Yeah.
Right. And the reason for wanting to convert them to short-term rentals, is that economic?
I would say either way, because we've been working this as Airbnb since 2018, and then the law published, so we transferred that to be that not typical short-term rental, but like month-to-month rental basis. And then throughout the COVID, we've been suffer from the mortgages, and we've been trying to looking for the long-term tenants for all year around since the COVID starts. And then it's just, you know, it's really hard to find people. Then almost throughout the year, like around 6 months to 8 months, the building is being totally empty. But we still have mortgages on the building. And then right now, we are not only open to, you know, daily rentals, we also open to monthly rentals, 6 months rentals, 3 months rentals. We try to maintain a good condition of the building, so we don't take any annual rentals right now. We have inspections conducted literally monthly. We also do weekly cleaning in the common area. So we really try to maintain a good condition of the building, and we think it's a really good opportunity to do Airbnb at the same time.
Have you been operating it as an Airbnb in recent months?
Not really.
I'm not sure what that means.
And we can't, even if we tried, we couldn't because of the change in the enforcement of the law. Like, I think an email went out mid-month last month, asking Airbnb, unless we have, this is why we need this, you know, this the zoning permit approved or the variance approved, because we can't legally operate right now.
I just want to add it to that. I mean, not really, is you can still see our properties on Airbnb is still active, but when you try to search a date and availability, is actually 30 days minimum to book.
That's right.
So it's still on the short-term rental website, but it cannot be booked as a short-term rental property. It's still month-to-month basis. So
are you also trying to market any of these for long-term rentals, or is it all?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, we do have active advertisement on Zillow.com and Turbo Tenants. At the same time, we're also looking for month-to-month rentals.
and so far, those four haven't found renters?
Yeah, not really. Like we have some so it's not I would say it's not the rental season right now until August. We got a couple inquiries during the summertime, but it's more like a month or two. Like people travel and visit their families over here, and then when it's time pass, they go to school, they go back to their city. We still have a bunch of vacancies.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Rick Pasquier, any questions?
Yes, I do. Two questions. One is when tenants move out after a month-to-month rental, or as you consider moving back to short-term rentals, how is garbage handled? You said, or your advocate said that there was collected.
Yes. So for everyone who move out, no matter how long they stay, we have a cleaners coming at the same day to clean out the units. And we have a warehouse in South Philadelphia. That's where we store all our supplies, also do the garbage disposal. So cleaners are required to bring all those trash back to the warehouse.
And you mentioned some apartments being longer term rental, but isn't it true that all your apartments would be furnished at this stage?
Yeah, all are furnished. Like if you're doing month-to-month rental, it has to be furnished.
So all your apartments are furnished?
Yes.
It would be hard to rent a furnished
annually. Yeah. That's why, because we used to do Airbnb and we have the property set up already. It's really hard to, remove all the furnitures and back, because that's been our cost already. So yeah, some long-term tenants are actually not really into it.
Right, got it.
Okay, thank you. Doug Miller, any questions?
No questions.
Sylvie Lorente, any questions?
No question, but one comment. I can assure you that my graduate students would be absolutely delighted to have access to apartments, furnished apartments, to be rented for long months, 1 or 2 years at a reasonable price. There is a market here.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we got some students asking about that as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Karen Moskowitz, any questions?
I think everybody's covered the questions I had.
All right, thank you. Bob Lane, any questions?
Yes, thanks, Veronica. First of all, Alan and Hannah, you made a terrific presentation. I think you made the case for this about as well as it could be made. And one of the major takeaways I have is that your presentation is based on how well owned and managed this particular Airbnb is. And one of the concerns I have is thinking long term is that it may be great today, but variances run with the property. And over time, what kind of protections do we as a community have, or as a community association have, for protecting the community, that if Airbnb isn't there, or if economics change and this doesn't become a student party place on graduation weekends and other, how do you address the fact that that's a potential, even though it's well managed today? And that's probably why the city has cracked down on these, is because they realize that they can't control, short terms. It could be great today and terrible, quote, tomorrow. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
And Bob, that's a fair question. And as you know, or as this committee knows, the ZBA has been granting only temporary variances, at most 3 years. And that's something that we would be in agreement with, because I hear what you're saying. The zoning runs with the land. So I think a temporary variance of 3 years is appropriate. Anything less than that, it's almost like we should just start applying right now, right after the hearing, because sadly, because of the dynamics of the ZBA, it takes almost a half a year to get in front of the ZBA, and that's if everything hits right. We had to get another continuance that even on the expedited track, I've seen it where we have another 6-month delay. So it's almost like a year. So it's really not fair to the applicant, and I'm not here to cry, but like that's the truth of what's happening here. So 3 years, we would be, you know, we would love the opportunity to continue our Airbnb use, you know, for that 3-year period. And you can see from past experience with this client that they've owned it since 2019. So that has been their business model for some time. They've had to pivot because of more of the enforcement and change in the law. And, you know, Bob, I've been here before, and I think you even try to make the argument that this may even be considered a non-conforming use because we used this property before the change in the law this way. You know, they changed the rules on us, and now we have to go seek their, you know, permission for something we had previously.
And another thing added to Alan's comment on that. So we have 6 units in this building, and all of those are either small studios or small 1-bedrooms. So there's literally no space for party. I do manage some large single-family houses that do have the party issues, and we actually terminate that listing like forever, because it's something hard to avoid. Even though we enforce the no party rules, you know, they never tell the truth, and then when something happened, added to that, we have 24/7 customer service working. So we have 3 people working on different time shifts throughout the day, 8 hours per person. I sometimes work at midnight as well, just try to make sure everything works well. So we also have the sound monitor inside each unit. And also if any other guest reach out to us saying some neighbors being too loud, we actually either me gonna be there instantly or I will call the police to be there instantly. But I never see a party goes on in this property because it's really small. It can later fit 1 or 2 people, that's it. So yeah, I never see a party in this, you know, location. I would say if that's for students party, they have a bunch of kids hanging around, they need some space to do that for sure. So
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bob, unless there's any other questions, Ben Weinrau, any questions?
Yes, thank you. During the presentation, did I hear correctly? You said that you renovated the units during your ownership?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't see an alteration permit with the city during your
No, we
ownership.
actually, no. It's not the renovation happened recently. It's when we buy it, it's actually like more like a shell something. So now we, you know, we just, you know, the thing is we didn't change any structure of the building. We do the paintings, we fix some leaking issue. We get the furnished, we got the flooring, and we got all the furnitures. All the appliances are still the old ones. Unless it's broken, we replace it.
And the front door and front windows, was that part
No.
of your renovation?
No, they're still the old ones. We just do the paint job on the white door because it's been really dirty sometimes.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Okay, thank you. So now I'd like to open the question session up to any community members. So if you are a community member and you have a comment or something you would like to note regarding 2402 Spruce Street, I invite you to raise your hand, and you can find the raised hand feature at the bottom of your screen under reactions. And when I call on you, I will ask if you can please state your name and state your address for the committee. So JRRS, I'll call on you first. So I invite you to unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Thanks. My name is Jim Veronica. My wife here is Deb Baird. We own the property next door.
And I'm sorry, is the address for that?
2404 Spruce.
Thank you.
We previously sent a PowerPoint presentation into the committee after the January hearing. I don't know if you had a chance to review it, have it available again. I think they said at that time that we couldn't use a PowerPoint during a meeting.
we invite you to state your opinions, and then if necessary, we can see about further things. But for community members and also for committee members, we invite you to state your thoughts.
Okay, that's why I'm not showing it. Okay, so as the next door neighbors who are most exposed to what happens in this property, much of what has been said is not accurate. First off, during the time that the property was used as an Airbnb, there were parties there. There were times when marijuana was smoked to such a degree we had to close our windows because it was coming into our house. Even more recently, within the last 3 months, there was a bunch of people out on the street at 1 a.m. in front of the house and then went inside. And we've seen people go in and out on very short term, not 30-day rentals, since the last hearing. There is, to our knowledge, no one to contact if there's a problem. We don't have any connection with the owners. They have no sign or anything available for us to make a phone call. We don't know if the number's available. They said a petition went around. It certainly didn't go to us for signature. The outside, you saw pictures of the inside of the building. The outside of the building is decrepit and really an embarrassment to the neighborhood. There are pieces of stone falling off the front of the building. I have photographs of this over time. An air conditioner, a window air conditioner, fell out of the building onto the sidewalk within the time that the present owners owned the building. And they just put it back up in the building. In the back is overgrown with weeds, and some of them are 10 feet high. And ivy's growing out of their backyard up the building behind us, eating into the walls. That owner had to come in and clear that off at least 2 times to my recollection. And right now it's almost covering a third of the building behind us. The building itself in the back has wires hanging out. Water collects when it rains around the downspout where the drains are supposed to run the water out to the street. There are separations, actual physical separations between the floor of the bay window in the back, the large bay window, and the bay window itself, where you can see the insulation just exposed to the air. There's also openings in the eaves in the back of the house where birds roost and leave droppings on our property and everywhere else and make enough noise that a prior tenant asked us who to get in contact with to try to get that taken care of. And we tried to contact the owners to get that taken care of, even just to put some netting or something to keep the birds from roosting in there. And we were unable to get in contact with anyone. I mentioned that there were wires hanging out. When they said they did renovations, they didn't mention that they did HVAC for the building on the outside and erected large units, 6 of them on the outside of the building in the back. And I don't know if there were permits for that. I don't even know if permits are required for that, but that was done.
Okay.
The building has been a huge problem over the last 3 to 4 years, and even prior to that. But the idea that this building is well managed and well kept is not consistent with everything that we've seen happen.
Okay, thank you for that.
Hey, Veronica, do you mind if I just quickly respond?
Sure, a quick response, yes.
Yeah, so I do apologize if there's no ability or you have not had the ability in the past to reach out to the current owners. I'm going to in the chat, I'm going to share my email address so we can make a connection to the owners, and so you or Hannah, and you can like coordinate with them. The only thing I would say is that, you know, again, another thing that I failed to mention, you know, typically even with multifamily long-term accommodations, I always think it's appropriate to have like a number on the front window just so that the neighboring property occupants can also contact us in case there's any issues. And I would make that recommendation in that situation, and we can agree to that in proviso. But I'm going to share my email address, sir, and then you can, email me. I'll make a connection to the owners. Okay.
If I might make a.
Thank you. And so if there's a new point, yes. If there's not a new point, I want to respect and hear all other neighbors. I do see that one more individual has their hand raised. I think that the points, the concerns are clear. So I don't know if there are any new points to be made.
Only that I requested that at the last hearing, and
so I wasn't. I'm not aware.
I understand you're not.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. I think that we've heard both sides. I don't wish to be rude and cut anybody off, but please know we have a third property, and I think everyone has stated their point of view clearly. If I've misunderstood, please feel free to drop a point in the chat, and I'll be happy to reconsider. Again, our interest is that everyone is heard, and also that all properties are able to be heard at a reasonable hour in the evening too. So I now, it seems that we've covered all those points, and I'd now like to turn to another new individual, I assume a near neighbor, Tom DiLorenzo. So apologies for any mispronunciations, but if you could state your name and your address for the committee and tell us your
You got
thoughts.
that right, Tom DiLorenzo, and I'm at 2406 Spruce. So I'm right next to Jim Ronca, who just spoke. And I want to second everything he said, plus make some additional comments. It's interesting to me that the applicant is now admitting that they want to run this as a hotel, as part of their overall hotel business, because at the last hearing, the presentation was that they weren't really running this as an Airbnb. They were running it as an apartment building, and they only wanted the ability to fill in gaps in long-term rentals with Airbnb tenants. Now they've admitted that they're really in the hotel business and they want to run a hotel in a residential neighborhood. I noted when the reviews were put up, they were obviously put up very quickly, so we couldn't really read them, but the ones that I was able to look at, they all seem to mention the neighborhood as being beautiful and lovely and a wonderful neighborhood. The only one I saw that mentioned the property itself said that the interior or the decor in the units didn't match the photos. Also, the constant references to tastefully furnished and renovated and so forth, that's certainly not the case in the exterior. And the exterior is one of the things that we as the neighbors have to deal with all the time. As Jim said, there's masonry falling off the building. The front of it is the shabbiest building on the block. And the painting around the front door is stripped off halfway. I mean, it looks like a tenement building. And that's what we're dealing with. So to hear the property manager say, oh, we're very careful, we're very concerned about the neighbors, we're very careful in terms of how we manage this and renovate it and so forth. That's not what I see as a near neighbor. The other thing on the petition, I didn't receive the petition either. The first I heard about it was when it was presented tonight by the attorney. With respect to the question of whether they can fill the apartments or not with long-term apartment rentals, I guess they're saying that they have some empty units now because they have to show hardship to get the variance. They haven't really addressed that much, but they have to show a hardship. But it's clear when you consider everything they've said that they're in the business of running Airbnbs, and they're holding this empty at times because they don't want to get locked into long-term rentals. They want to run it as an Airbnb. That's their business. They're in the hotel business. So to say that, well, we might have some empty units now, I don't believe that that's any problem or any economic hardship, because this is one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the city. And I'm sure, and there are plenty of long-term rental apartment units on the block. And I'm sure they wouldn't have any problem running it if that was the business model they wanted to follow. Also, a map was put up of Airbnbs in the area. If you go back and look at that map, you'll see that there are actually none right in the vicinity of 24th and Spruce. You have to go several blocks away to find them. So this is something that we're not used to in our area and we don't want. Again, just to summarize, keep in mind, obviously, the hardship showing that's required, and they haven't come close to showing that here, I don't think. Thank you.
Veronica, may I
thank you.
quickly just respond about the hardship argument? Everything else, like I think I've responded in the past.
A quick response.
Yeah, so again, this is essentially a non-conforming use. This use was allowed by the city prior to the change in laws and the crackdown, and we have no choice but to seek this special governmental relief. And our hardship is quite evident. Like we detrimentally relied on being able to set this up as short-term accommodations, and we have, and then the city's changed the rules on us, and we're trying to legally operate as an Airbnb.
If that were the case, then every Airbnb operator would say they have a hardship and the legislation would mean nothing.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I think that you've both stated your opinions, and I think you've also both been very clear. If there is a new opinion to be stated, I'm of course very interested, but I do see that another hand has been raised. And just to clarify or to confirm, we do want to hear all voices, but we don't engage in debate during this meeting. So I think everything has been clear, and thank you for all your points. And now I see another hand, Joseph. So if I could call on you, please, sir, and ask you to state your name and address for the committee.
Thank you. Joseph Pokorny, 2407 Spruce Street, so across the street from the property.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to reinforce what Jim and Tom have stated in regards to not receiving a petition. Also confirming an instance of partying after approximately 1:30 a.m. A group of young men, very loud, outside the building, went inside. And we're back outside at 3 a.m., very loud again. And also agree with Tom in regards to clearly the market would support long-term rentals. I'm aware of at least one individual who had rented from the owners for more than 2 years, who was forced out of the property, not in a pleasant manner.
Okay, thank you, sir. I see that Hannah, you, the property manager, has her hand raised. Did you wish to speak very quickly to this, or what would you like to speak to here?
Yes, just to add a comment all for everything you guys have been mentioned. First off, I really appreciate for all those suggestions. And I do be honest with you, for most of the comments regarding the property, we are received from the tenant side. So it's more about interior. But now I'm more than happy to connect with you guys and get all the issues you mentioned about exterior. And we are willing to work on that. And actually, we are designing the poster to be posted outside the building for all other neighbors who can get contact information from us. Actually, we're working on that right now.
Okay, thank you. And now let me ask, is there anyone else who would like to speak to this property, 2402 Spruce Street?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes, could you please state your name and address for the committee?
Yes, my name is Diane Siegel-Danoff, and I live at 2428 Spruce Street. And in the interest of time, I just wanted to say that I do oppose the requested variance and defer and agree with the comments of the prior speakers, specifically Jim and Tom, on the reasons why. And also, just so not to repeat their points, but just to add one other note, and that is that when the property manager said that, the tenants don't obey the rules, I think that speaks for itself in terms of the problems that we can expect if this is converted.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for that comment. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak regarding 2402 Spruce Street? All right, well, thank you. Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Alan Knockamson and Ms. Hannah Yu for a very clear presentation, and thank all the near neighbors for their clear participation. I think everyone presented their opinions very thoroughly and clearly, so thank you for that. And as I don't see any other hands or expressions of interest in speaking about that property, I'll now move on to the third property. And this is the final one on our agenda, and this is 414 South 23rd Street. So this is an application for the erection of a one-story addition with accessory roof deck above new addition, access from rear second floor, all as part of an attached structure. And the reason for the refusal is that the proposal is refused because the maximum allowed occupied area or percent of lot is 75%, whereas the proposed occupied lot area is 85%. And so here I invite the representatives of this for this property to unmute themselves and to share with us about their property.
Yes, good evening, members of the zoning board of the CCRA. May I share my screen?
Please do, Mr. Rexroad.
Okay, will do.
And Mr. Rexroad, confirming you're the attorney on the case, is that right?
I am. I'm with Royer Cooper Cohen Braunfeld. I'm also joined by my colleague Joshua Upin, the applicants Shelley Fraser and Travis Fraser are here, as well as the architect Lisa Neely. So I'd like to start by just, we appreciate you bringing us this time to present our project to you and your constituents, and look forward to answering any questions you might have. I will keep this, in the interest of time, I will keep this brief. But the property is 414 South 23rd Street. It's zoned in CMX1 by way of RSA 5. The applicant seeks to construct a one-story rear addition with an accessory roof deck above the new addition with access to the second floor in accordance with the site plan previously provided to the CCRA. As you noted, L&I issued a refusal to the refusal for the applicant's permit on May 28th of this year because the proposed addition will cover 85% of applicant's lot, which is in excess of the 75% coverage area pursuant to table 147011 of the zoning code. The applicants have appealed L&I's refusal and are seeking a variance which would permit them to construct the one-story addition occupying 85% of the applicant's lot. So I note that this project will have minimal to no impact on the neighbors. It's not viewable from the public road. It's in fact, the applicant's neighbors located at 416 South 23rd Street are in support of the proposed project. I also note that the applicants have resided at the property for over 20 years, and they would like to spend the next chapter of their lives in this property. However, as the property is currently purposed, the applicants have concerns about the viability of remaining in the home as they age in place, as the home has no storage or bathroom on the first floor, requiring them to utilize flights of stairs to access storage in the bathroom facilities. So, the proposed project will address these concerns by adding a powder room and large pantry area to the kitchen, which will be located on the first floor. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa Neely, who will discuss the site plan and design.
Hello. Thanks, Sean. And I really
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm hearing some feedback. So I'd just like to ask if those who aren't speaking can mute themselves.
Sean has said,
So I'm very sorry, I'm not able to understand.
Oh.
Correct. So we were not able to understand.
Okay, is that better if I'm talking now?
This is clearer.
Oh.
Thank you everyone else for muting yourselves. Can you please repeat again, because we couldn't understand you.
Okay, you could hear everything that Sean said, you're just not able to hear my end of it, is that?
That's right.
Can you hear me?
There was a lot of feedback. I don't know whether it was the internet connection or something else, and thank you everybody who muted themselves. So I'll mute myself as well, and I'll alert you if we can't understand you, because of course, every part of the presentation is important.
Okay. Okay. So I was just saying it's, you know, a rather simple project. We're not proposing to do anything terribly extravagant. And I think Sean has touched on the key points in terms of the function, use of the space. If we follow the what we're asking for is a 9-foot setback. Right now, the existing kitchen is tiny. And there is no powder room and no storage at all on the first floor. If we were to follow the open area rule, then we would only be able to add another 4.5 feet to what is existing. So that's why we're trying to, you know, approach it in this way. If you look at drawing number 1, Sean, I think you have the screen up. If you can, on the left-hand side, there's a drawing that actually shows you what's on the other sides surrounding this property. So there's a property, it's on the right-hand side on the drawing that's actually to the north. And that is a 3-story residence up until a line, and then it's a 1-story residence that would be at the same spot where we're adding this addition. And then on the other side is basically a property that mirrors Shelby and Travis's house in terms of the massing. And then behind their property, if you go to, so this drawing works, the site drawing, or if you go to the next drawing sheet, it's also there on the left-hand side. You can see that there is an adjacent, so it's really the house that runs perpendicular to their property from the adjacent Waverly Street. And that's a 4-story property with a roof deck. So the house itself is really not doing anything that hasn't already been done per se in terms of massing in this area. So we're hoping that, you know, we could go ahead and proceed as we'd like with this. Oh, good.
I think
Okay, thank you. There's the photo of the yard on the west, which is the property running adjacent. It's 4 floors. Yes. Okay. Okay, and that is the back of the house. And there's the property that's to
I'm very sorry, Lisa, but we
north.
can't really understand you clearly.
So
Your voice
basically,
is cutting in
the
and out.
addition would be coming out to the extent that that property is. It would be matching that line with a deck like you see on that property. Oh, that's very strange. I was just saying, we're basically matching. If you're looking at the photo that's up right now, the addition would be matching that back wall of the property that's to the north of Shelby and Travis's house. And it would have a similar deck, little roof deck railing that would match the one you see in that photo. I'm not hearing anything right now. Is there someone that's on?
No, we've muted ourselves so that we can hear you.
Oh. Okay, I don't have anything more to add. I mean, I'm glad to answer questions.
Wonderful. Why don't we move to those? And Mr. Rexroad, if hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, could you just scroll through all of the drawings slowly so that the committee and everybody on the call can hear that? I think we were already at the top. We saw the photos. I think that we haven't really fully seen all the drawing. Yes. If you might just scroll through those so that just slowly so that the committee, who I know have looked at all this before, but any.
Sure, I'll start from the top, which is the site plan. And then I can just.
Sean, if I may, why don't you leave it, the committee let's leave it, and then the committee chairwoman can alert us as when she wants us to advance it, so that we're sure that she's had the opportunity to see everything.
So thank you for that. I have viewed this. Why don't from previously? Why don't we scroll to the next? Why don't we scroll to the next screen? And again, I and the committee have seen your presentation. We're just very interested that members of the public can also see. So why don't we leave this up for a moment and the members of the public can take a look? And then I think there's just one more slide, is that correct? If we can just scroll there, scroll down so that, there we go, so that we see the elevations and the members of the public can see that as well. So that since we had some technical issues and voices were cutting in and out, everything is clear to everyone. All right, well, thank you for that. All right, well, thank you for your presentation and for the everything that you've shared. I'd like to, if you've closed, I'd like to now move to members of the committee for their questions. Charles Robin, do you have any questions?
Can you come back to me later? I'm still studying something.
Will do. Remind me if I forget. Ben Zuckerman, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Rick Pasquier, any questions?
Questions?
Thank you. Doug Miller, any questions?
No question.
Thank you. Sylvie Lorente, any questions?
No question.
Thank you. Karen Moskowitz, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Bob Lane, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Ben Weinraub, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Charles Robin, you're up.
The size of the roof deck?
So if you look on sheet or 1, so it's, if you go back to not the next one after that. So we're teaming up here in this process, so coordination. Okay, so if you stay on that sheet and you look at the drawing number 3, so the third one over from the left, that shows you the roof deck. So it is following the west edge of the addition and then wraps around the side of the existing house. So right now the existing house has this little piece.
This is the
that
size of the roof
projects
deck,
out.
10 foot by 10 foot, is that correct?
Oh, it's 10.6 by 15, say 15.6. And then there's a leg that wraps around the side, which is 5.5 by 12, 1.5.
About 150 square feet. And that mirrors the rear of the property to your, I guess it was the east?
To the north, actually. Yeah.
And the property to the north, do they have any non-opposition?
No.
No, they did not oppose, or no, they haven't. Had they say
They have not expressed an opinion.
Understood. And you have no letters of support, but no persons have come to you in opposition. Is that correct?
There is a letter of support. I believe it's the neighbor to, Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the neighbor to the south. We did make efforts, in addition to the standard notice that goes out per the code requirement, we did make overtures to the immediate near neighbors to the rear of the property on either side. And the one neighbor did submit a letter of support, and the other neighbors, they didn't support it, but they didn't oppose it either.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Flora Becker, I did not mean to overlook you, but do you have, I see that I unintentionally did. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
All right, thank you. I believe that we've moved through all of the members of the committee. So now I'd like to invite members of the public who have a comment on this property, which is 414 South 23rd Street. I invite any members of the public to raise their hand. to ask any questions or make any comments about this property. So I also invite any members of the public to just unmute themselves to make any comments or ask a question. Okay, well, I hear none. So with that, I understand that there's no one who has a question or a comment on this property from the community. So with that, I would like to thank the presenters very much. Thank you for presenting despite these technical difficulties, Mr. Raxroad and Ms. Neely. And so thank you for that. With this, what we will do is we will close this portion of the meeting. I'll thank you, and you can stop sharing screen now. And at this point, what we will do is we will close the public session, and we will go, the committee will meet in closed discussion to discuss these three cases.
Thank you for listening to our presentation and considering our proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. So I invite everyone who is not a committee member at this point in time, you can drop off the call, and what we will do, and please feel free to stop sharing your screen so that the screen goes back to normal. And then what we will do is the committee alone will meet. So those of you who are not committee members, I invite you at this point to move on to other parts of your evening because only the committee will meet at this point in time. And so thank you for having joined us.
Veronica, do you want to kill our recording as always?
I will, but we do have a Mr. Mark Grabowski, whom I'm going to move into the waiting room first. And then I will stop our recording. And I